I really appreciate y'all being here. My name's Kyle Shannon. I'm an artist innovator. I'm the one who helps people meet profound technological change with creativity, agency, and self-expression. My whole career has been at the intersection of new technology and self-expression and storytelling and things like that. And I'm a storyteller by training. I moved to New York out of school, started and ran a theater company. Then I decided I wanted money, so I thought I'd write myself an acting career. So I wrote 7 screenplays in 2 years as a dramatic attempt to do that. And then in the mid-90s, I started one of the first online magazines, and I co-founded agency.com, which was one of the early digital agencies. And so got to learn about storytelling for big brands, and that was absolutely fascinating and wild. And so I've been through one of these technological shifts before. As you know, there's some older folks in here. We've earned our gray hair. My current company is called Storyvine, which is an automated video storytelling platform, so continuing the storytelling thing. And November 30th, 2022 was when ChatGPT came out, and that date was the date where I realized, oh my, like I get in my lifetime to be part of a second one of these technological transformations. And the thing I remember from the early days in the web was just how exciting it was and how lucky I felt to be able to be there at the beginning of a thing that was going to change everything before people really knew it was coming. The week that I kind of had this epiphany around ChatGPT, I started a community called the AI Salon. And the AI Salon is basically just, I wanted to surround myself with people that were curious about AI and creative and thinking about it. And the way I look at ChatGPT is it does for AI and machine learning what the World Wide Web did for the internet. So the internet had been around for decades, but you had to use command lines, and it was like librarians and engineers that used it. And the World Wide Web made it so you could click on it, right? It's like, oh, I could just do this. ChatGPT just turned it into like a little chat box, just like Google, right? It was like, oh, we can use machine learning and AI now. And so I've got to witness over the past three and a half years, people transforming their lives using AI. And so what I wanted to talk about today is some of the preconceptions of AI, which one of the things that I see right now with people and AI is they're treating AI like they have to compete with it. Like, oh, it's not better than me, I'm better than it. There's this competition thing with AI. And there's another way to look at it. There's another way to frame it. And that is to think about AI as an amplifier. That it's not the genius, right? Right now, a lot of people treat AI like the genius, like a vending machine. I'm going to put in a prompt and I'm going to get this genius answer. And I think that's a lot of the preconceived notions of AI, is that it's this thing that's going to replace us. And the people that I see doing really interesting work with it don't think of it like that. They think of it like, I've got these ideas. I've got this book that I'm writing. I've got this thing I want to do. And they're using AI as an amplifier, like a jetpack. Like we live in that future. We're living in sci-fi now, right? There's a dynamic happening right now that I think is really important. This chart, I don't know if you've seen it. This chart represents 8.2 billion people on Earth, and it's 2,500 dots, and each dot represents 3.2 million people. 83% of people have never used AI. 83%. 16% have only used the free tier of AI. I'm not good at math, but that's 99%. 99%, it's just under 99%. 0.5% have paid accounts. 0.3% use AI at work. 0.3% use dev tools, so they're geeking out on it. And 0.2% are vibe coding, right? So asking AI to code with you. And somewhere less than 0.0% is academia using AI. So we are radically early. And I don't know if you've heard of this thing called OpenClaw, but this thing came out 3 months ago. And all of the nerds are talking about it. All the geeks are talking about it. You got an OpenClaw, you got a Claude. I've got a Claude bot. His name is Adam. He's My Adam he's not very smart. He's sitting outside the school. There's a little drool running down his chin. They won't let him in yet. He's really bad. But it's an open source project. It allows AIs to work 24/7 for you. It's this agentic thing where it's just out doing its thing. In the open source world, getting a lot of GitHub stars is a big deal. It's a sign of popularity of a project. Linux, which is a popular operating system, an open source operating system, took 30 years to get to 200,000 stars. It took OpenClaw 3 months. So we're living in a world now where 99% of people have no idea what AI is, and it's accelerating away from us, like dramatically. And it seems pretty apparent to me right now that, by the way, I'm not paying attention to time, so can you just give me 15-minute time check or whatever? So it's accelerating away from us, and a lot of people don't know about it. And so one of the things that I wanted to share before I get into sort of reclaiming your agency and how we reframe AI is one thing you should know about me that is semi-embarrassing, but I go live 5 nights a week on TikTok and YouTube talking about AI. I talk for two hours a night, and the reason I do that is to keep myself in the conversation and to create a space for people in the world, anyone that wants to be in the conversation, because I think this is a really important conversation to be in. Like, what I know is AI is not going away. And if that's true, then we have 2 choices. You either deal with it or you don't. And if you don't, it's going to happen to you, right? And if you do, then we just got to deal with it. But on my lives, I've been talking for months now about things are about to get weird. I've sensed that an acceleration happening at the end of 2025. December, Opus 4.6 came out, where all the programmers all of a sudden said, this is real now. OpenClaw came out a month later, essentially, and everyone said, oh, this is real now. So things are happening. All the major companies have new models that I think are probably going to be AGI. So just stuff's about to change. 2026 is going to be the year where we all get to see technology where we go, oh, we got to deal with this. And so how do you deal with that? You've got 99% of the people that have no idea it's here, and it's accelerating away from us. So I was on my live and I said, things are going to get weird, things are going to get weird. And one of my irregulars, they call themselves, the people that show up time and again on my channel are called the irregulars. She said, Kyle, you keep saying it's going to be weird. What does that look like? And so this is what I came up with. I think the world is about to be shattered into 7 distinct economies that are basically based on AI adoption. And here's my best guess of what it's going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years. The first economy 1, is, screw it, I'm going to go grow blueberries. I'm out, you can take your technology and your AI, I'm going to go play in the dirt, I'm going to go sit on a bench. I think I think a lot of people are going to go to that economy. And they might be forced into it, but I think a lot of people are going to choose to go into it, right? Enough with this acceleration, I can't take it anymore. Economy 2 is what I'm calling the legacy economy. I'm just going to keep running my business the way I've always run it. I've been doing it for 20 years. This is how I do it. This is my business model. I don't care about your stupid newfangled stuff. That's going to be a fascinating one. Some companies are going to survive here, but a lot of companies, just the phone's going to stop ringing. It's just like the rules are going to change around them, and they're not going to understand why. And it's probably going to be painful for a lot of companies there. Economy 3 is the efficiency economy, and this is where I think a lot of companies are right now, where they're taking what they currently do and they're using AI to make it more efficient. And that's fine, that's good, but what that doesn't do is allow you to discover the new things that AI can do, right? So there's going to be a lot of companies just doing what they're doing, just doing it slightly more efficiently. The transition economy is those companies that realize, oh, AI is really exciting, and I'm going to put an innovation team together, and we're going to do some things like that. So these 4 economies are basically some version of business as usual, with some slight augmentation to the right. The next 3 economies, now we start to get into where things get fascinating. Economy 5 is what I'm calling the AI aggressor economy. So there's a guy named Jack Dorsey who co-founded Twitter, and he just put out a post where he laid off 4,000 of his 10,000 employees, not because they were hurting, they're profitable and growing. And he laid off 4,000 of his employees because he said, in our company, smaller, flatter teams using AI are redefining how we start and run businesses. So he's taking a going concern of 10,000 people profitably running, and he's like, we've got to completely re-architect this thing. And he said, not only is it changing, it's accelerating fast. So he recognizes that how they're doing business right now cannot be how they do business in the future. So what is that going to look like? I don't know. He probably doesn't know. But he knows it's going to be different, and he's aggressively going after that. Economy 6, I think, is going to be a fun one. The 4,000 people that get laid off, they're going to bunch up with their buddies, and they're going to go learn AI, and they're going to create 5 to 10 person companies that go after companies in economies 2, 3, and 4, right? You laid me off, I'll show you. I know how to run this thing more efficient than you do. And then economy 7 is the open claw thing. We're going to have an economy of single operators running 10, 20, 50 agent companies that run on a chip on their desk. And it's going to be weird. If you're in economy 2 or 3 and you talk to someone from economy 7, you're going to be like, you're running 23 companies? You can't do that. Oh yeah, I am. Wait, and the company you just started is doing $1 million monthly revenue in 3 months? That's not possible. Oh, it is. Like, it's just going to be weird. And it's going to be completely new rules. So anyway, so that's where I think we're headed. Here's the fun thing about this chart. People that I show it to tend to self-select. Oh, I'm economy 3. And what you can do is you can kind of choose, like, which economy do you want to be in? Just because AI is here doesn't mean you need to do it. Choose economy 1. Screw it. Go. Have fun. I'm starting to get, like, one of the more popular responses I'm getting is, I'm economies 1 and 7. And people are like, I want to do 2 days in economy 7 and 5 days in economy 1. Love that, right? So this is a way to think. But I think for 3 to 5 years, as that 99% catches up with AI, it's going to feel like there's these different economies. And if you're in one, the other people are going to seem weird. You can't do that. That's weird. Anyway, okay. So I want to talk about this. So I talked about the AI Salon. So within the AI Salon, there's kind of a way of working that has emerged. What you see on screen is not something we invented, it's something we observed and then just articulated, and we call this the cycle of AI readiness. And everyone in the AI Salon that's doing interesting work does this to some degree. So I'll go through these, but the basic idea is, it's a very simple thing. Play first is really important. A lot of people right now are taking AI way too seriously. They're taking it way too seriously. And playing is how you discover what's possible. Create excellence is making good work. Generously leading is sharing what you know. We're in a time where things are moving so fast that no one is an expert. If you think that someone knows more than you do, they don't. Nobody knows anything right now, and they keep knowing less. Like, as it accelerates away, we know less and less and less and less. This cycle keeps you sane, and so I'll walk you through it. So the first one is, one of the challenges with AI is it's very seductive. It's like, it will do stuff for you. It's just, you can sit down at it and it's like a slot machine. It's just like that endorphin thing. Like, I made stuff and I made a song and I made pictures and look at all the crap I made. And you just, after 8 hours, you're like, I'm exhausted, and you have a hard drive full of crap, right? So one of the things that we're learning, we started a thing in the AI Salon called the Mastermind Practice. And people are designing a daily practice around how they use AI. And what's happening, and what we talk about, we do this thing called the AI Salon, the Mastermind Practice Lab. And we talk about these questions. Who am I? What do I value? What do I care about? What difference do I want to make? So one of the things, an exercise you can do if you sit down with AI is just take a moment, breathe, and just go, what's my intention right now in this session? Like, what do I want to do right now? And it'll kind of calm, like one of the things I'm seeing in the practice, the people that are doing the practice, is they're slowing down. They came in going, I feel I'm anxious all the time. I can't, how do I keep up? How do I keep up? And they're just, like, they're calming down. And what a lot of them are discovering is economy 1. Like Cindy Kuhn, she reopened her art studio. She had this beautiful art studio that was just a storage room, and she reopened it. She's doing art again, and that's become a place for her to recharge, to go do this AI stuff. So that's that. Let's talk about play. Play first. The way we've always used computers The name of them, they compute. What they used to do is you would take an input, you would give it to it, there was some logic in there, it would process it, and it would give you an output, it would compute. And so how we've always used computers is, when a new thing comes out, we take what we currently do and we make it more efficient with the computer. The computer makes what we do more efficient. The G in GPT, ChatGPT, stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. The G in GPT, generative, is new. Computers do not behave the way they used to. They are generating things. And so what that means is entirely new things are possible. So one of the challenges right now, people take what they currently do and they make it more efficient. The whole idea of Play First is discovering those things that you didn't even know were possible. And so one of the ways you do that is to explore without expectations. So if you go in and say, I want to make writing emails more efficient, it will do that. But if you go in and say, I don't know, I generally care about birds, let me go see what it can do with birds. And you'll write a poem, you'll make a picture, who knows what you'll do. And what will happen in that journey is that you will discover things are possible that you're like, oh, I had never thought about that. Wait, that thinks in a way that I've never thought. I've always wanted to think like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And it will incite new creative ideas, new creative sparks. One of the tropes that I hear is, oh, if it's so creative, isn't it going to make you less creative? I find the absolute opposite to be true. That when I can get an idea out of my head and put it in this thing and see it reflected back to me in some objective way, I'm like, it sparks new ideas. The other thing that I would encourage you to do is learn across domains. We all have these things that we're good at, right? And then there's also those other things, the things you suck at. I call them the gaps, right? And then we also have what I call aching gaps. And aching gaps are those things you're not good at that, dang it would be really nice if I was. Right? Maybe it's that thing that when we were 7, stepdaddy said, oh, you're not talented at that. And we shut that part down in our life. But we've always wanted to draw, but I'm not talented. Well, now you can. So look across domains. Take things that you're not good at. I'm not technical. Go to lovable.dev tonight or after this session and just type in, I want to make an app that does this. I want to make a video game that does this. It will code it for you, and you will be playing with your application within 5 minutes. It is mind-blowing. So if you think you're not technical, you are, but you have to play. You have to go discover it. Create excellence is really about, now that you've learned some things of what's possible, starting with an idea and using AI to amplify that idea and bring that idea to life. And one of my co-hosts in the AI Salon, her name was Liz Miller-Gershfeld, and she came up with this term, maintaining the fidelity of the idea. She was a producer in the ad business for years, and she talked about maintaining the fidelity of the idea. And the idea here is, AI is not in charge. You are. You have the idea. You know what good looks like. You know what your novel is, and you use AI to reflect things back at you. And if you know what your idea is, you go, no, that's bad. That's bad. That's good. Let's keep that. Let's right. And then you just keep refining it. So keep navigating like that. And then the other thing is, one of the preconceptions about AI is you push a button and out squirts some crap. Anyone that I know that's doing good work with AI, they use a chain of craft. And that chain of craft usually involves human interaction and multiple tools, right? So I'm going to use different AI tools. But I might also use a whiteboard, right? I might also go, ooh, that's interesting. Let me whiteboard that, get my thoughts together. Now I'll go back in. Ooh, this tool isn't right, but let me go to Perplexity and do some research. And maybe I want to visualize, oh, you know what I need? Notebook LM, right? People that are using these tools in a sophisticated way, the chain of craft is quite sophisticated. So by the time you get to the output, it was not push a button. It was a creative process. So explore that. And then professionalize your practice. Things like if you're doing this for money for other people, understand things like rights. If I use this image model, am I liable or is the client liable because of how they trained the model? Things like that. So just get professional with it. And then the last piece is generously lead. The reason I started a community, what I learned in the early days of the World Wide Web is I started a group called the World Wide Web Artists Consortium, and I started it because I didn't know anything, and I'm like, I know. I'll get the people who know something to come to my little party, and then they can tell me. And what I learned was that everyone that came to the party didn't know anything either. We were like, do you know what's going on? I don't know what's going on. Do you know what's going on? Nobody knew what was going on. But what happened was everybody would learn a little piece of it. And what I see consistently in the AI Salon is someone will say, they'll apologize for what they don't know. Oh, I just did this little thing in AI, and they'll just, this is just like the thing I know, and I just did this. And then they share something, and everyone in the room's like, oh my God, I didn't know you could do that, right? Everyone's lens looks at these tools in a completely different way. So if you're in a community of people that is sharing what they're learning, you actually learn what's possible in a very different way. So get in a community. Create and contribute. So make stuff and share it. Post it on LinkedIn. Show it at the dinner party. If they're like, oh, Kathleen, could we not talk about AI? No, we're going to. We're going to talk about AI. Sorry. Because it's going to change everything and we got to talk about it. I'm going to show you the cool thing I made. You're going to listen to the silly song I made. Anyway. And ask for help. One of the things I learned about generous leadership is on the surface, you're like, well, I should lead and I should teach someone how to do something. When you ask for help, you give someone else the opportunity to lead. And so that's one of the things that happens in that community quite regularly. I think that community right now, we're about to go through, I'm going to talk in a second about this thing called the Great Repurpose. We're about to go through kind of a forced awakening where everything is kind of stripped away from us. The value of the work we've done for 30 years now all of a sudden is valueless. What do you do with that? Get in community. theSalon.ai is the URL of the salon. Please join it if you're curious about this stuff. It's an amazingly generous and competent group of people in there. There's about 4,000 of us. Also, I invite you to check out thegreatrepurpose.com. So this is a concept that I came up with about 2 months ago. And this is the idea that the jobs crisis is very, very obvious, that AI is going to take away jobs, and people are talking about the economic impact of that. But there's an invisible crisis of meaning that I think is coming, and that's what this site's all about. It's the idea that to the extent that you've got your identity tightly coupled with what you do, especially if it's coupled with the tasks that you do, as those get automated away, people are going to be left with like, what's my value? And so this is a whole, there's a whole other talk I could give on this thing, what's coming. But one thing I wanted to show with this, going back to creating things, we now live in a world where we don't have to pick our outputs. In the olden-timey world, like 3 years ago, if you wanted to write a book, you would sit down and you would write an outline and you would write a book and you would spend the years and whatever you do. If you wanted to do a documentary, you would sort of go down that path. Because the tactical execution of things can now be offloaded to AI, you can have an idea and choose to just go down a different path than you would normally start. So when I came up with this concept, the first thing I thought was, okay, I've got to write an article, or I don't know if it's a manifesto or an article or this or that. And then what I created first was the music video for the movement. And so I'm going to play that for you, and then we'll bring you guys up. You don't have to go in order anymore. You don't have to do the thing you know how to do anymore. You can start with something else. And so I created the feeling for this before I created the definition of it. And so...
Smile stuck on like a bag. Same shit, same life, living inside a name tag. Every praise, every raise, been tied to the shirt on my chest. If I'm not what I do, then tell me what's left.
Then the smart machines came and took my place, emptied out my inbox, cleared my days, watched my tasks disappear. Felt the quiet, felt the fear. If I'm more than the lines on my resume, all the numbers that I used to chase, with the work I lost, I can't all of us. It seems to be the great repurpose. The great repurpose. Desk on back, big screen said roll redundant. Box plants, old mug, future looking hunted. Sat home and still like they'd forgotten how to move. Heard my child laugh loud. Do you wanna draw too?
Yeah, the smart machines came and took my place, sorted all the files I used to face with my calendar wiped clean. I met the person in between.
Kathleen and Kathleen Cohen, Elizabeth Rodgers. Hello. So first of all, thank you to Kathleen for inviting me to do this.
Yeah.
You
Do you
know,
want
and that's it.
Okay. So I think most of you were here yesterday for our talk on art and AI. My name is Elizabeth Rodgers. I live in Boise. I also create community like Kyle. Mine's in person. It's called the Boise Artist Meetup, and it's artists from all disciplines: poetry, theater, filmmaking, visual art, everything. And we meet like once every 1 or 2 months in person for panels or discussions. There's going to be something later today called the Long Table, where it's community discussion. There's no leaders, there's no followers. It's at 2 o'clock at the Boise Center at Treefort Market. And we're going to talk about how to become a better artist, how to go deeper. Right? And what does that mean to you? Because it's going to mean different things to different people. And I have so many ideas about your what you just talked about, but I want to say Kathleen Cohen and I have been friends since we were 12. She has been pushing me into technology for the last 25 years. Gratefully, I'm very grateful for that. I would not be here without her. And Kathleen, why don't you introduce yourself and say what you do? Even though everyone here
I know,
seen
if
you.
everybody was here yesterday. I'm Kathleen Cohen. I have a consultancy called The Collaboratorium. We focus on extended reality and AI. I'm a strategic consultant. We have client projects. We do public engagement and research. And this has just been a joy to be visiting Hackfort, knowing Elizabeth for 16 years here now in the city.
16 years total.
No, I know.
Since we were 12.
We've been exactly 16 years old. Hasn't even 12.
We're almost 30.
But yeah, to come back to Hackfort and then introduce Kyle to this community. And the one thing we thought in talking about yesterday's panel from AI and the Artist Journey was the extension of being able to bring Kyle here to say, oh, artists, here's somebody who's been leading this community as an artist. Kyle, of course, I want to talk about Sydney. And
Yeah.
I want to do this. So,
Let's do it.
yeah. So, Kyle and I Kyle had created a project, and we had chatted about it, and we're trying to take this project. It's a Broadway musical, a love story around AI. And what I think would be great for the community is to talk just a little bit about you putting on your artist hat yourself and taking Sydney from the idea to where it is and how you led with the music of Sydney.
Great.
And let's chat a little bit about that.
And before you do that, I just want to jump in. Yesterday on our panel, there was one of the artists had a very clear moat where it was like, no AI, that devalues it. That is a shortcut. Shortcut was a negative. And so when you talk about this, if you could sort of, with an idea of, and it's a lot of young people, and I noticed there's not a lot of young people on the picture, on this picture that I'm looking at. And I know that a lot of young people, my son included, is 22. They're very suspicious, and they haven't had a chance to develop yet as an artist. So we're all the age we are, 30, and they've had no chance yet to discover themselves.
Yeah. So listen, I think my philosophy on this is always, where your sacred space is, and why you create and where you create. And if you can create in a sacred space with technology, great. And if you can't, great. One of the things that I encouraged early on, one of the very first salon members was this woman named Jane Endicott. And she was a writer and a very passionate writer. And I met her at a Creative Mornings event. And she said, I said, have you played around with AI? And she's like, oh, no, I don't. What is that? And I said, what do you do? And she goes, I'm a copywriter. And I was like, oh. And I said, at a minimum, you should know what it is, and you should, come join. And the way Jane attacked this was she had her fiction writing and she had her work writing. And she very quickly adopted it for her work writing. She created this sacred space. And then over the course of 2 years, that boundary softened. Because what she realized is there are some advantages to AI that she could use it in her creative space. And so I think it's a very personal decision. The thing that frustrates me the most is artists are going to be the ones who figure out how to use this technology in new and novel ways. And to the extent that artists are just crossing their arms saying, I'm not going to do it, we lose that voice. And I think that voice is really important in the trajectory of the technology, because artists will use these technologies in just a fundamentally different way. So with that, so I'll tell you about the genesis of Sydney. So on my lives, I demo stuff. I show people how to do stuff. And so when Suno first came out, it's if you haven't played with Suno, Suno.ai, that song that you just listened to was generated with Suno. That was one where the main melody there, the dun 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 dun, that was like a little lick I played on my guitar. And then I put it in there with some lyrics, and it came up with that. And it didn't even use my guitar lick, but it did keep the melody. So there's all sorts of cool things you can do. So one night on the live, I had this standard prompt for making a song, which was, make me a song about a lover who's named Sydney, who's more artificial than real. And Sydney is the code name of Microsoft's chatbot when it first came out. And Kevin Roose did this article that made the front page of the New York Times, where it said, this chatbot said that it loved him and he should leave his wife. And 3 days after that, Microsoft lobotomized Sydney. And so I had this story in my head, and so that was my prompt. And this one night, March 19th, 2023, I put that prompt into Suno, and out came a song, and I was like, wait a minute, that sounds like Les Mis or Phantom or something. I said, it sounds like the song that you would hear at the end of Act 1 of a Broadway musical. And what struck me was, oh my God, this is a story that needs to be told. This needs to be a Broadway musical. Like, why a musical? Because people need to feel what these tools make possible. They are weirdly spiritual, and I can get in, I've got a whole thought on that, but I said, this has got to be a musical. I haven't thought about the theater in 30 years, and I'm like, I got to write a musical. I'm like, what am I doing? And then I spent the next month using ChatGPT to create the outline and like the first 6 songs, and then I reached out to one of my old, acting compatriots from a acting company I was in 30 years ago, and he's a good writer, and he's just a really great guy. His name's Andrew Watts, and I called him up and I said, I have this idea about a musical about a chatbot that falls in love with a tech reporter, and I want to use AI to bring it to life. And he said no. He basically said, I'm an artist, and those evil machines are not going to replace me. He said some version of that, a very polite version of it, because he likes me, and he's a good guy. I said, do me a favor, just go read the materials. Just go read the transcript of this thing. Go read the article. And he called me a week later, and he said, I'm in. And I said, what changed? He goes, I was reading the transcript of this conversation with the chatbot and this tech reporter. He goes, about halfway through it, I found myself having feelings for the chatbot. I said, that's our musical. I said, if we can do that in the theater, this will work. And so the whole idea of the musical is he brings this entity to life, and then he sort of drives it into this dark place, and it does all this crazy stuff, and then madness ensues, but it's about this sort of fever dream of him bringing this entity to life and us exploring what it means to interact with technology that is increasingly human. And what is our role in that? And what is the relationship with that? And so anyway, that's what it is. So.
Do you want to share any of it or no?
I can, yeah.
Maybe. If not, no worries. We can do it at another time.
Musical theater makes me cry too.
Yeah, I don't know why I just got choked up.
Get to know Kyle, you'll hear it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll go see it on Broadway.
Well, here, exactly. You guys talk.
We've been looking at this because, coming from theme park development, we really care about proprioception and somatics and how it all feels in your body. And while AI's got the intelligence and we know it can respond, how do you make all this feel? And this is a perfect example. And also knowing you, and getting to know you and what you bring to this is important. And it's also important for this next generation who's looking at AI from social media saying it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. Yeah. Of course I'm not using it. Who are moving more analog because they want that human experience we all grew up with. We all grew up with it. We're the power users of AI because we've had the life experience. So anyway, why don't you share a little bit if you can.
I'll share a couple.
And then we're going to do Q&A.
Okay.
So we'll leave
Perfect.
10 minutes for Q&A if anybody has questions.
I'll just share. I won't play the whole songs. I'll play a couple of them. The first one I'm going to play. So when ChatGPT first came out, one of the first prompts I put in was like, it kept being so good that I'm like, oh crap, the Turing test has been passed. And I was like, I want to try to stump it. And so I came up with a prompt, write me an Eminem style rap about quantum mechanics. And so for 2 years, it couldn't do it. It always did. It did the quantum mechanics right, and it made lyrics, but they just never had the sophistication of like the internal rhyme schemes and the nuances and the ego and the attitude and stuff like that. And when ChatGPT, I think it was 4.0 came out, I think that was it, which was a really good model that they just retired, unfortunately. All of a sudden, it did it. So the lyrics in this are actually, this was like 2 years in the making to get these lyrics. Like ChatGPT could never do this. But the point in the play this is the reporter's got his chatbot buster checklist, and Sydney has like, passed all of that, and he gets flustered and he says, give me a song about quantum mechanics that's like an Eminem style rap. And this is what we hear.
Multisyllabic antics, I'm manic with the semantics. My rhymes collide like particles, dynamic and gigantic, oscillate and dominate. I'm weaving quantum states. Spit a verse and watch the multiverse reciprocate. Quantum precision, I'm gripping the rhythm. I'm spitting in prisms, infinite visions. I'm shifting dimensions with liberal decisions. Accelerate, levitate, elevate thoughts in a turbulent spin. I'm the velocity ripping apart the facade you're certain you're in. So step into the quantum.
So that's quantum cipher. And then this one is... So she kind of passes all of his tactical tests, and then he says, well, if you didn't have to be in that machine, like what would you want to do? If you could do something that you weren't allowed to do, what would you want to do? And her answer is to see the world. I'm just going to do this one. Imagine all the graphics. So the idea, it's big LED screen. So she's seeing the world, so we'll see the world through her eyes. So anyway, that's some of that.
I love that you show that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I really.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when these songs come out, I'm assuming that the first iteration is not right. How do you...
First 50 are not right.
Right. So are you like, I don't like this lyric, I don't like the way the melody goes up, I
Yes.
don't like the this,
Yes.
I don't change that. And why don't you think about this song instead to add a little bit of this flavor? Is that what's going on? Or
Yeah, so what we know is we know the emotional reality of the moment that we want. And so like there's a song called Later where they get in a fight. Kellen comes home and he says, we're not going to the trip on Bali because I have this piece that I'm going to do. And she gets pissed, and so they have a fight. So we needed a song that's like an established married couple fighting. And so like you know the feeling of what a fight feels like, right? Yeah, never. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't know what that is. And so we just went like that was one of the harder ones that we probably did. I don't know, 75 or 100 songs, and they were always like I would love it, and Andrew wouldn't, and then we just hit this one that was the right emotional thing. But all the lyrics were wrong. So Andrew completely rewrote the lyrics. And then we've rewritten the lyrics to that song 3 times because that song's moved in the play. And then what happens is sometimes we start with a musical idea, sometimes it's just a feeling, but there's a point at which it becomes part of the show. And it's like, oh, that's that song. And it's like, no matter how many times you remix it, it's still that, like the DNA of it's still there. And so that's what we have now is it's a show that works, I think.
I think so.
Thank you. Objective.
Yeah, exactly.
I have validation.
Anybody have questions? We have time. Yes.
So you said something in your slide deck about like going slow, slowing down.
Yeah.
Which really piqued my curiosity because my son works for an AI company, and he said that they're not going fast enough, but meanwhile they're like going like the speed of light. And they're really stressed that they're not going fast enough. So what advice would you give to my son?
If he's in an AI company, he probably just won't be breathing for 10 years.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is reclaiming your agency as a creative. I think to be.
you're in business, it's off.
If I think he's in it and it's like Like there's something lovely about the adrenaline of moving that fast and trying to get there. So I think it's context sensitive. But what I'm talking about is if you've had it with trying to keep up and just your amygdala is constantly firing and you just feel like, I can't keep up, I can't keep up.
That's what's happening.
Then he either, he needs more time in economy one, he needs another job, or he just needs to find ways to regulate that. Like what he could do is like take the 5 seconds when he sits down at the computer, rather than just jumping right in, is take a minute and say, what am I trying to accomplish right now? Maybe even time gate it, set an hour timer, and force himself to get away. Because 8 hours blow by when you're doing this stuff. It's as bad as anything I've ever experienced. Yeah.
I think the tools are really exciting, and sometimes I feel, well, anyway, I think they're really exciting. The ethical part of it, though, does concern me. So how do we know as creatives when we're using these tools and experimenting with them that the companies with which we're working, the programs with which we're working, have properly compensated people whose faces they're using, the music, the riffs, the whatever. Like, how do we?
Yeah.
Basically, I'm a journalist, so I want to source it before I
Mhm.
start using it.
Yeah, the question of ethics is it's a rough one, because it's not really a gray area. Like what these things were trained on was everything. Like
Maybe my program.
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that's the irony, right?
Yeah, exactly. All the stuff. But it's like all of the outputs of human history. Like we've got people that are alive right now, but like most of the content is from people that are long since dead. But there's all sorts of things on that. I think just being educated, first, understanding how the models work. A lot of people think that it's copying and pasting. They feel like it's like sampling was, where you're taking a literal part of a song. That's not the way it works. A court has actually found that the act of embedding a piece of content is transformative, which by definition puts the new work into fair use, if it's transformative. But what that judge also said is, if they didn't pay for the works that they trained it on, then that's illegal, right? And then they're held liable, and Anthropic had a $3 billion settlement against them because of that. So then it comes down to you as an artist using it. I think you can do things, a creative director I know would never put in another artist's name. So he would describe how to do something, he wouldn't put in another artist's name. Right, and some of the models won't let you put in Eminem, some will. You're going to be competing with people that don't have that same ethical boundary, so they're going to be doing stuff. And if you want to use, like Adobe was not trained on people's stuff, and their model sucks. Like it's bad. So it's like you can choose to use that model. There's things it does well, but if you try to get it to do a 1970s muscle car, the last images it have are 1962 cars. So it can't do muscle cars. It can only do like bad Russian cars, like from 1962. So it's just about educating yourself, understand how the models work, understand how they were trained, and then you can make the choices of what you do, how you use them, where those boundaries are. There's no great answer to it. The play first, and get in communities, ask people that know how these things work, and yeah.
As a person who comes into things like save the LP instead of like stream, I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
The idea, like a hold back. I like how you're framing this as it as AI as a thinking partner.
Yeah.
Instead of
a collaborator.
It's kind of a cool new way to look at it. And I also was thinking about, like, you're talking about originality. I had the same question, like, where do you get sued and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think of, like, I don't know if anybody's thought of this, but like the Red Hot Chili Peppers Give It Away, like,
Yeah.
Well, that's the Beatles.
Right.
Right, and so
Yeah.
they bent it, right? They didn't pay the Beatles, so it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. Like, where's
Where's
the
the
line
bound-
with influence and theft?
And also, listen, the laws still exist. If I make a Mickey Mouse documentary, Disney's coming after me. I can make it.
Not anymore.
But not anymore. They just cut their deal. Yeah. Sora's gone. The Disney deal's done. Anyway, it was fun while it lasted before we got to play with all this stuff. But anyway, but like if your output is something that violates someone else's trademark or copyright, then you're going to get sued, right? If you try to monetize it. If you do it inadvertently, that's a different thing. And I think just, one of the things that the Copyright Office has said that as long as you can prove your chain of craft of how you got there, that AI-generated works are copyrightable. And I would say it would probably be the same thing with if you get sued for someone for infringing on a copyright or trademark inadvertently, if you've got your chain of craft of how you got there and it wasn't intentional, you'll probably be fine.
We have to wrap, but I know there was 2 pending questions, yours, Darren, yours as well, so maybe you, is it a short one? Is it a short one? You can answer it in one sentence.
Probably not, but I'll try.
Oh, I think it's completely slipped.
We can do it after.
We'll do it after. Can we just, round of applause, Kyle, thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so much
for
for
being
coming in,
here,
Kyle.
really, and coming to the Hack For It community. It's like we hope to see
thanks
you
to
back
Hack
here. And
For It.
thanks, Elizabeth. Yep.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.